Ladies and gentlemen, welcome yet again to another Mental Health Tuesday. It's another opportunity for us to come together, share on mental health issues, share ways in which we are able to cope with stress, trauma, and things surrounding us. And as we do that, we hope that all the skills and lessons that we are getting are beneficial to the people around us, family, friends, and colleagues. Good evening. My name is Mohammed Ali Machausa. I will be your host momentarily until internet may lock me out, and my co-hosts will be Manaisha Kuania and Abigail, who I see Abigail has already been thrown out by internet, maybe. So today is another opportunity. Welcome on board. We have one of the most instrumental young people in the field of mental health, Alya Mohammed or Alya Kassam. She is a mentee of Nemo, who has been on this platform for quite a number of time. And Alia calls herself as a positive psychology consultant. So what she brings here is purely positive vibes. Alia, how are you? Good evening.
Good evening. My apologies. The internet's a bit off for me, so I will put my camera off until it comes back on properly. Um, yes, but I'll switch it on just now. Thank you so much, Mohammed, for that amazing introduction.
Most welcome, Alia. May you care to let people know where are you logging in from?
Yeah, I'm logging in from Nairobi.
Aha, thanks very much. So the topic today is how might we cope with pressure. We have qualified it as peer pressure, but then how might we manage or cope with pressure? I know this is a subject that is affecting so many people, and we are hoping that this platform today is going to deliver a tonic, and that after this we'll be able to come out with skills and a toned down temperament that may help us to cope with the situations around our lives. So, Alia, please delve in. Um, and before Alia comes in, I want to make sure everybody understands that this is a free space. You may write your opinion, questions, and comments on the call chat, and you may also raise your hand so that you are able to speak on what you think around the topic. So, Alia, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mohammed. Hi everyone, my name is Alya. I am a positive psych consultant, and today I want to be talking. Sorry, I think Mohammed, you said it was peer pressure, but the topic was changed to coping with breakups. And I just want to say, if you or someone you love is going through a breakup right now, or you've been through a breakup, I'm sending you so much compassion. I really am. It's such a difficult thing to go through. It's one of those things you hear about in books, movies, songs, you see it in art, you see it everywhere. But I find that it's very difficult and very rare to have serious conversations about it, to actually talk about what the process entails, how nuanced it is for others, and how complicated the process is, but also I find that one of the things we don't talk about so much is the beauty of what can come out of it. I think a breakup, a heartbreak of any kind, and when I say heart, I want to even just talk about heartbreak because a breakup is between two people, usually mutually exclusive, but sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes it's unrequited love, sometimes it's an almost relationship where you're talking, you're in that stage where you're getting to know each other, and then it just doesn't happen. That can still be heartbreaking, even if you're not exclusive, that still is a breakup. So if you're going through heartbreak, it's really difficult, but it's one of those things that it strengthens you. There's something about the challenge that teaches you so much about the kind of person that you are, and it teaches you so much about how you love, how you relate to others, teaches you about what you like, what you don't like. Breakups are some of the greatest motivators in our lives. So I want to talk about coping with it, but how we transform it. And that's something about positive psychology. It's about transforming the challenges. One of the things is to look at our challenges in life and see how we can find better meaning in it, how we can make the most of the challenge we have.
So who keep going? No, what one is it? Because
Sorry, someone's on mute. Okay, fine.
Sorry for that.
No problem. It happens to the best of us.
talking in you.
I hope you can see me clearly. Okay.
Yes, indeed, Alia.
Okay, perfect. Just in case I'm breaking up, just let me know. So, yes, first, I want to talk about what you might be going through. So, breakups include a lot of grief. You are grieving a person, you are grieving, yeah, you're grieving the loss of a person that you cared for, you were interested in, you possibly even loved for a very long time, and now it's over. Whether you're the initiator or you're the person who's been broken up with, it's often very difficult, and there's usually a significant amount of grief. Now, this is a very common theory, but some of the grief you go through, there are 5 stages of grief. The first is denial, where you're in shock and you haven't been able to face the reality of what's happened. There's anger, where you are frustrated yourself, with the other person, or maybe someone or something else that came in the way of you, that you feel came in the way of your relationship. There's a lot of blame, a lot of resentment that happens here, and even if it doesn't make rational sense, I must say that it's one of those things that we all need to go through. It's a very normal stage. I think the only challenge with this stage and every other stage is staying stuck in it. There's denial, there's anger, there's bargaining, where you're thinking of getting back together with your ex. You are compromising on what you decided, what you know to do. You're aware that the loss has happened. You're not in denial, but you're not ready to move forward. Your goal is to go back to the way things were, to change things so they're all okay again. Sometimes that does involve a little bit of denial in the sense that you haven't yet accepted the loss. There's depression, and now you're not fighting it, you're not fighting yourself or the situation, but you're not happy. You're feeling low, you're feeling upset, and you might feel bleak and pessimistic. You don't getting better. But the final stage is acceptance, where one day you might just find one day you wake up and you realize, I'm okay, I'm doing fine. And acceptance is a stage that is inevitable should we go through the stages of grief. Acceptance is something that finds us, but we need to take care of ourselves as we go through the other stages. And you might find that you're staying in one stage longer, you might go through a different variation of the stages, but either way, it's a difficult process because you've lost something. But you haven't just lost the person, you have lost, there's something called symbolic loss. So the person is called, losing the person is a physical loss. You can say, I lost so and that's difficult. However, you may have had a symbolic loss. You may have lost your identity as somebody's partner and loved one. You may have lost um, the hope of a future with this person, the hope of getting married, having security and love. You may have lost a certain dream of yours. You may have lost a part of your routine. If you had a certain day of the week or a certain time of the day where you connected with your partner, that's part of your routine and now it's gone. So there's a lot of loss, and it's very difficult to cope with the fact that things are just not the same anymore. So grief is one of the things you might be going through. You may be dealing with anxiety or fear. Anxiety and fear is a result of not feeling positive about the future, but also worrying about who you are. You might question your identity. You might wonder, why has this person left me? Am I going to find love again? Am I even lovable? How do I find myself being happy in the future? You might be questioning things, and you may not find an answer, but you may find a lot of worry in your life. So you may be going through a lot of anxiety or fear. You might be struggling with low self-worth, and it may be seriously tampered by either the relationship itself or the method of the breakup. How someone breaks up with you can really tamper with your opinion of yourself, especially if you were the one rejected. You may have low self-worth. You may question, what about me was not good enough for that person? Why did this not work out? If you're still grieving past relationships, you may think, does nobody love me? Does everybody leave me? You may feel that low self-worth and question if anyone will ever love you again. That's a very common process. You may even feel physical pain in your chest, in your heart. You may feel this tightness in your throat. You may feel bleak. You may feel restless. You may experience insomnia, or you may be finding that you're sleeping too much. Your appetite might be changed. You might find you're physically reacting to the loss and you're not able to make sense of it, but your body knows what's happening. And you might feel depression, overall pessimism, hopelessness for the future. You're feeling low all the time. Things just don't feel good. Everyone's laughing and singing and happy, and you cannot seem to connect to that. So these are just some of the symptoms that you might be going through throughout a breakup, and none of them are happy symptoms. So if you or someone you love is going through any of this, you're heartbroken, someone you love is heartbroken, you're feeling low, you're grieving, you're not able to even make sense of it, or maybe you can a little bit, but it's still something you're going through, I extend to you a warm hand of compassion, because it's never easy. But I want to now talk about how to cope with it. Now, the first thing we need to do is the basics, the absolute basic things that every human being needs. I'm going to list them out.
Alya, just a minute. Maybe we may need to check with the participants, the audience, if those are some of the experiences they've had. Are they the symptoms they've ever had, or do they have others that we've not mentioned? And maybe we kind of compare notes. Anybody who wants to say if they have ever had these kind of experiences, and what was it like? You may raise your hand or you may write on the call chat.
Absolutely. And this is a safe space. This is something that you might be surprised that you type it out and someone else has typed out the exact same thing and you didn't even realize that's a universal thing. So feel free to type it out, or you can raise your hand.
These common features of what we go through when we break up, when we lose someone, or is Alya just cooking up stuff? We just need that affirmation so that when she talks about how to cope, then we know we are connecting. Anybody, you may raise up your hand. Take the platform. Your hand is up.
Good evening. I'll concur with what Alya shared. I feel the common experiences that we go through. Personally, I went through the chest pains, feeling so much tension. Then I started doubting my self-esteem, and I was not confident enough to walk in front of people. Then the other thing, I always doubted my self-worth. I'm like, am I not of that value to this particular person? So there are things that do occur, and if not taken care of, it reaches a point that I started withdrawing from people, and it almost led to depression. So I agree with what you just shared. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bianca.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking the risk to share that story with us. Thank you very much. We don't take it for granted. Anybody else who wants to share? Anybody, it may not be you, it may be someone you know, someone you knew, someone close to you.
Hi, okay. Alya.
Hi, Abigail.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Whatever you've said, it's also true. I've experienced that, and I cannot just describe how it feels. The pain is so deep. The pain is so unexplainable. It's you who feels like you want to explain to someone, my heart pains, but you just don't know how to explain to them. Yeah, so I concur with what you said earlier.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. I completely agree. It's an inexplicable pain. It's one of those things that if you've gone through it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you've never gone through it, you cannot possibly imagine it. It's very difficult to describe.
Okay, Alia, if nobody else is aha, I can see on the call chat someone has shared. Mama Riziki says, I experienced everything. I just realized I was get out. It was getting out of hand, and as in avoiding friends, I used to go places alone, sitting alone. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Riziki, for sharing. Uh, Alia, maybe you may take it forward if no one else is sharing. But thank you for those who volunteered to share.
Thank you. Thank you. That was very brave of everyone who shared, and I completely understand the isolation. It's when you're going through something and you feel like you're going through it alone, you don't want to share it with somebody else, or perhaps you feel like nobody understands you, or maybe people around you really don't understand. Maybe the only person you want to be with is that person and they're not there, so you'd rather be alone. There's so many reasons for the isolation, but it is very, very difficult to go through. Thank you to everybody who shared. So I want to talk about how to cope with it. This is a very powerful thing. The first thing I want to talk about is the basics. And these are the basics that every human being needs every day of their lives. One is food and water. Second one is a good shower. Third is exercise. Fourth is fresh air. And the last one is sleep. And I mean decent sleep. I would say about 8 hours of sleep if you're able to do that. Now, I recognize that sometimes this is a tall order. And if you're in that place where it's a raw breakup. I mean, it happened just the other night or a couple of days ago. This is something that's incredibly recent. If it's still so raw inside of you, you may be struggling to get all of these. You may be struggling to eat, or maybe you're overeating. You're having all the, when you see somebody having ice cream in a movie, they've just been heartbroken, they're sitting and they're crying, eating ice cream, listening to sad songs. It's such a cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason, because ice cream, sugar, it makes us feel good in that moment. Our brain is in need of happy chemicals which have now been deprived of us. However, if we're only eating ice cream and junk food for days, we're not getting our basic nutrients that we're normally supposed to have, then it's going to make us feel worse. So having food, water, I'm repeating the list: food and water, showering, exercise, fresh air, and sleep. Showering is so important, and I mean literally just 2 minutes in and out. It can do a world of a difference for you, especially if you start your mornings with that. But again, if you're in that raw place, you might end up showering last thing before bed, and that's okay. That's completely okay. Exercise does not have to be rigorous. It can be a 5 minute stroll downstairs. It can be a 10-minute yoga session. It can be something that, just gets our body moving a little bit slowly. And it's really important to get a little bit of exercise and fresh air and to try and sleep. However, if you're not able to make this full list, that's okay. It's just important for you to keep going so you can try and achieve the next thing on the list. But once you get your basics met, then you can go on to the next thing, which is dealing with the emotional pain. And I've heard all the people who participated talked about the pain, the pain that is there. You're drowning in it. Your chest is heavy. You want to cry. Either you can't stop crying, or maybe it's stuck in your throat and it can't come out and you don't know what to do. What do you do when you're feeling that pain? And if you have gone through that pain, you're probably asking yourself or other people that questions, what do I do about the pain? So one of the things we can do about the pain is, number one, I'm gonna list 4 things and I'll talk about them individually. The first thing you can do is journaling. Journaling, writing in your diary. It doesn't even have to be a pen and paper. It could be on your phone. Sometimes I take my phone and I write it out on the Notes app, especially if you're at work, you're in transit, you're outside, you don't have a pen and paper. Just take out my Notes app and I journal about it. And this is, I would say, is most effective if you want to talk to the person that you're heartbroken over. If you want to talk to them and you know it's best not to speak to them, but you just need to get things off your chest, typing out in the Notes app or writing it down, or even recording a voice memo. You can record it I'm sure every phone has a voice memo app that's already installed. Sometimes speaking out loud is better than writing or typing. As long as you're getting it off your chest, you're saying all the things you want to. And one of the most effective things is actually reading it back or hearing it back if it's a voice memo. You get perspective and you find that you're very calm afterwards. Journaling is one of the most effective things for myself, for sure. It's a fantastic outlet and I always feel at least a little bit better. The next thing I want to talk about is meditation. I must confess, meditation is one of those things that I don't get the hang of it. So many people talk about it, they love it, they get so many benefits. It's one of the things I do not have the hang of. However, there are plenty of free guided meditations out there that even I have really seemed to enjoy. Sorry, can you hear me clearly?
Very clear, Alya.
Yes.
Okay. All right, thanks. Yes, so having a guided meditation, and again, there's a list of resources which will be posted in the chat just as I finish. And I have some free meditations for you. They're so interesting and they're so helpful. If you type out on YouTube, "sitting with heartbreak meditation," you will find something really powerful. It's almost like a friend is talking to you. And I find meditation is especially effective when you need to connect to the pain, but you don't know how. It's too much for you. So that is incredibly useful. And again, there's so many meditation techniques. If you already have your own, I encourage you to use it. Exercise again. Now, exercise is, again, so powerful. So it's something that our body needs, but it's also really good for lifting our spirits. When I'm depressed, or maybe not depressed, but just feeling low, feeling sad, and perhaps it's a little persistent or I'm feeling a little bit heavy, the best thing I can do for myself is go for a run. And that might sound intimidating for people who don't like to run. And let me tell you, for running, you either love it or you hate it. So if I'm suggesting to run and you're not a runner, you might be a little intimidated. But I can go for a 3-minute run and still get the full effects. And here's a secret. If you set out an exercise goal, and the exercise goal is very short, it's like a 5-minute run, and then you complete it and it says run complete, you're going to get a hit of dopamine. What that means is the reward center of your brain is going to activate and you're going to feel good again. So it's an amazing way to release all the happy chemicals that you're lacking when your heart is broken. And I strongly recommend doing a little bit of exercise, setting a very realistic goal, not an intense one, but a realistic one. And then you can build up from there. And I highly recommend the Nike app. It's free, completely free. And it's something that really motivates you and makes you feel good. And it literally has a 2-minute run on the app and it encourages you and says 2 minutes is better than nothing. So it's really, really powerful for you to do so. The next thing on my list, the final thing, is for emotional pain, is breath work. That is the most effective way to release your emotions. You know, when it's all trapped inside of you, you don't know what to do about it, you want to talk, but you can't even find the words, or maybe no one's there to listen, but it's just trapped inside of you. Breath work is one of the most powerful things you can do to release. And what I'm going to do is, if Mohammed or anybody else is able to post the resources in the chat, these are pretty much all free. and they're excellent. So if you're sitting here, you're struggling with emotional pain, you don't know what to do about it, then please, use these resources. They're free, they are accessible. I highly recommend an app called Insight Timer, which I've linked over there. Insight Timer is amazing. Free breath work, free meditations. It will be your friend while you're heartbroken. The last thing I want to talk about is a symptom called rumination. Now, maybe if anyone would like to, just by a show of hands, you can raise your virtual hand. How many of you who've ever gone through a breakup have ever gone through rumination or overthinking? You are just in a dark space in your head where you're overthinking over and over and over again, the same thing over and over again. Why don't they love me? When will I be okay? How comes I can't be okay? What is wrong with me? No, no, no. You're in a trap in your head. It's like you're in a hamster wheel. Okay, I see a few hands raised. I'll even raise my hand here. Now that is called rumination for sure. And there are two things you can do for rumination. One, question your thinking. Let's say one of the thoughts you have, in fact, for anyone who's raised their hand, I'd actually like to suggest, if you're able to type out in the chat, just one of the thoughts that you've had while you were ruminating. Any negative thought, any dark thing that was just constantly going on in your head. I would like to read that. I know one of the things is, why don't they love me? That's a thought that was going on repeat. Why don't they love me? Or what did I do wrong? Why is this happening to me? So why is this happening to me? Let me use that one. Why is this happening to me? I think that's a very normal thing to ask. I mean, when something bad happens to you, it's very difficult to just accept it immediately. You want to get to a place where you can go to a healthier space, where you want to get to a place where you can accept it. And that's a healthy space. But in between this, there's a journey between accepting what's happening to you. So a thought such as, why is this happening to me? What we can do is we can reframe that to say that what is happening to me is very painful and I want to acknowledge that. However, let's reframe it. What can I learn from it? What is this trying to teach me? That is a very powerful thought that you can do. So we can acknowledge the pain. We don't want to dismiss it. Absolutely not. But we want to be able to look back and say, what is a different way of looking at this? So questioning your thinking is something very, very powerful. And when you can see things from a different perspective, it's very helpful. It eases some of the burdens. But the other thing you can do, aside from reframing and questioning your thinking, get up and do something. Whether it's an exercise, whether it's drinking some water. Sometimes you want to splash your face with cold water. That can be really powerful, but sometimes you don't even need to do something productive. Sometimes the best thing you can do is go on YouTube and watch celebrity gossip, if that's the kind of thing you enjoy doing. I know there's a lot of drama happening now with Prince Harry and Spare. It's all over the news. So that is something that can completely take your mind off things. And when you're not thinking about it, sometimes the best thinking you can do is not thinking about the thing. Like, let it process at the back of your head and do something else. I know I'm somebody who I like to resolve things immediately, so it was very difficult for me to adapt to doing something practical that's completely unrelated to whatever I'm thinking about. But it's massively, massively effective. And then the last thing is to find purpose in your journey. I think one of the most difficult things to hear is that everything happens for a reason when you're heartbroken. Why should this happen for a reason? I see somebody in the comments said that they almost committed suicide. That is something that's so serious, and yet it's not even that rare. To be honest, people actually get to that point where they consider ending their lives because they cannot see their lives without the other person. This is a very, very serious topic, and it's something we all go through. It's something that, yes, the songs talk about, but not to this extent. So to hear that this has happened for a reason, it's almost a slap in the face. So I don't want to tell you that this has happened for a reason. I'm not somebody who likes to say that, especially if you're shattered. What I can say is, one, not, I don't know if everything happens for a reason, but I do know we have the ability to heal for a reason. We do have the ability to actually get to that space where we are comfortable in our own skin again. We're no longer questioning our self-worth. We are at peace with ourselves. We can actually find purpose in the future. We might actually find that this has challenged us to do something really powerful. One of the things that a lot of people will say is the best part of a breakup is the part in your journey where you discover new things you like. And again, that's something that's very difficult, especially in the beginning, but it's something that eventually you get into. And one of the most effective things is volunteer work. If you're of service to someone, it could be supporting friends, supporting loved ones. Perhaps it's volunteering as KSPCA. I personally love animals, so that's something I would probably do. Maybe you're volunteering at your support group or at a, you're helping to feed underprivileged children, whatever it is. If it's a cause you believe in, that is something that you can pour yourself into. You're never going to be the same again. And that's maybe a question you might ask yourself. When will things be the same again? When will I be okay again? You will be okay again, but you're never going to be the same. You're going to be transformed into an even more beautiful, honest, authentic version of yourself. There is something this pain is trying to teach you. What it's trying to teach you is not something you may be able to answer for yourself while you're in that space, but slowly by slowly, there are lessons you're going to be learning about yourself and about others. You're going to be learning about the world. You might realize that your self-worth was impacted by this breakup. But maybe you look back and it wasn't that strong before. Maybe you realize that you had a certain way of relating to people that stemmed from your childhood. Honestly, therapists love to talk about that. And there are ways what you can do, what you can discover about yourself in the journey is incredible. So I would say give yourself a chance to surprise yourself. Give life a chance to surprise you. You don't have to worry about, oh, when am I going to find love again? How will I meet someone again? I know for sure that's a question. If you've been heartbroken, you've asked yourself that question. How will I move on? When, where, how? You don't need to worry about that. Just trust the process, just a little bit of faith. We don't need to, sometimes you have faith in a higher power, in God, in the universe, but you can also have a little faith in yourself and a little faith in our human ability to love, heal, repair, forgive. And just know that this is not the end of your journey. This is actually the start of a new one. But this is not something for you to accept right here, right now, but this is something for you to, maybe all you need to do is just acknowledge the pain that you're in and process it. And that's where you might need a professional, such as a therapist, a mental health professional may be the best thing to help you. They're like a guide on the journey. You might need a friend. You might speak to your local pastor. You might speak to other people online who have gone through it. On that note, I am offering one-on-one mentorship sessions, and I'll put my email in the chat in case you do want to do that. But for anyone who's heartbroken and is just not sure how to begin their journey, I am here to support you. And that's it for me. I'm open to doing a Q&A now.
Wow, Alya, that's very, very wonderful presentation, and I'm sure quite a number of us will have gotten some tips on how to manage those situations. I can see a hand, Jumatatu Salim. Would you like to say something? Collins also has a hand. So after Jumatatu Salim, maybe Colin, and then Zito Biasha. Jumatatu. As Jumatatu prepares, maybe Collins, you may have the platform.
Okay. Uh, Thank you so much from our facilitator and also to the team that organized. I'm Collins, and my worry is we understand that breakups can lead into different problems, can lead to health health complications. It can lead to physical injuries. It can lead to emotional, I can say emotional disorder. But again, according to the insights we have, I don't think if you have given as much as is expected, because there is a one of the reasons to why you can or how you can cope with the breakup. You have said that questioning your thinking, and it is a challenge. I think when we question our thinking, it comes with imagination, and you can imagine once you are from that elimination, or you are in the elimination, have been eliminated, you have that breakup, and you keep on thinking, you keep on thinking maybe of what happened. I don't know how, that is how I get it. You think of you think keeping you think you just imagine the whole thing, the whole process, and I think this thing, it keeps on coming into your mind, and it results into a serious disease, which can cause a lot of disorder. And also, I think one way is to let it go. One way, you just have to let it go, because by letting it go, you are being relieved from the pressure that you had once fall into. And also, another thing is that once you get into breakup, because you have to understand that that things come and things go, because you need to accept the reality. And you can find majority of people, majority of, let me say, the youths, people get into relationship, they don't get to understand the reality that I'm getting to this thing. There are two things involved. It's either we continue with this life, or it will reach a place where we'll break up. And that is why we put much expectation. So I will just advise as many people, people are hearing me, or others, just that when we get into relationship, let us not have expectations. And into my case, there's a time when I had so much expectation, I even almost committed suicide, because I fell mad, I fell in love, and I had to give everything, and see, and boom, all of a sudden, now everything has changed. And you can see how I was traumatized. And then this thing can even, it caused mental disorders and everything. So even those people whom we speak to, we need to be very, very careful, those people whom we speak. There is a case when somebody went to speak with a pastor. And imagine, instead of the pastor helping, the pastor went around, now, now traumatizing the victim. And you can see the whole thing, the whole pressure and everything. So we need to understand even the circle. Which kind of circle are we dealing with? Which kind of people are we telling the things? Because even nowadays, even our parents, they have turned into our enemies. They've come into our enemies, because we even tell them these things about love. Nobody accept love stories. And there is even a time when we need to ask ourselves, do women cry? Because reasons as to why people feel like men should not cry, and when men cry, it is a taboo, it is something which is forbidden, because we keep it inside. And that is why we find that those people who are extrovert, and those people who are introvert. Because those people who are extrovert, they're those people who, they will talk with somebody and explain. Now these people who are introvert, again, how are we going to, they're falling then into this relationship, how are we going to help them? Because these are people who die in silence. They kill themselves. They have nobody to speak to, because it's not that easy telling somebody about a love story, how you fell in love with this somebody. Then it's not that. And that is why this is a conversation that needs to go on, and people should understand that that men do cry also. That you need to talk about this thing. You need to talk to the right people, actually the right people. And you must, even before, we should even go into vetting. You just vet it yourself. You vet from how you look at him or her. You vet it from your heart, that this person I'm going to tell this thing, is he or she trustful? When I tell her, or I tell him my story, how will he able to maybe to cope with? How will he able to help me to ease my feelings? Because by the end of the day, we still have to love. Because
Thank
as
you,
much,
thank you very much, Colin. Thank you very much, Colin. Because we need to manage time. I think we'll advise you, maybe we can also have an extended session with Alya behind the scenes so that we may have you covered in a deeper sense. Alya, would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I just want to answer like the questions that are available. But thank you so much, Collins, for your input. And yes, absolutely. What everyone's experience is no one's gonna have the exact same experience. No one's gonna have the exact same lessons. What you might learn for yourself is gonna be different from what maybe person B learns for themselves, and that's okay. I mean, it's such a complicated topic that we cannot just unpack it in one webinar, and that's why again professionals are needed to unpack what our specific needs are, what are we missing, what lessons are we going to learn. It's just there is no straightforward path. I'm seeing another one. Now for those of us who have gone through it, we understand that, but outside there, the young ones getting into relationships without expectations is minimal. Feeling loved is also expectations, and if you won't find it, then the relationships wouldn't work. So I'm just trying to understand. Okay, so are you saying that that we should have expectations, like realistic expectations, that we should be we should be loved? That's an expectation. Is that what you're saying?
Maybe we can give an opportunity to Mama Riziki to validate that. Mama Riziki?
Yes, we should have expectations. I fully agree with that, actually. I think we should have realistic expectations because expectations are standards. Now, an example of realistic and unrealistic expectations is an unrealistic expectation is this person must be my full happiness and must be available 24/7 and be my lifeline. That's not a realistic expectation. So if you do have that expectation, then you are going to end up heartbroken. But if you have an expectation that a standard rather that these are my non-negotiables. I want to be with somebody who loves me, cares for me, respects me. That's actually pretty much the bare minimum. And if we go into it without expectations and saying that, oh, whatever happens, happens, then we end up getting lost in the pain. So I fully endorse that we should absolutely have a standard for what we deserve. It just needs to be a realistic one. And I'm sure any of us who've grown up with, I don't know, Disney movies, Bollywood movies, whatever movies that are so big on romance, it inflates a very unrealistic view. And it's really important that we understand what a healthy relationship actually is. So yeah, absolutely. I fully agree with that. Thank you so much, Riziki.
Thank you so much, Alya. Anybody else who would like to delve in, maybe share an experience or say a comment or appreciate Alya? Anybody? Zito Biasha, take the platform.
Thank you, Alia, for sharing the knowledge with us. I'll share my experience. Um Whenever there was a time I was undergoing a very dangerous heartbreak. Let me say it was dangerous by then. And one of the things that I was using, or two, was the journaling, for which one of the effects that I was going through by then was sleeping. I didn't get sleep by then, so I used to wake up at night, then write everything that was in my mind, put it down. Then at the end, I just tell myself, or put it down as, I will work on this tomorrow. Let me have a rest for now. So in a way, it used to work. Then I also used to do the breathing exercise, but by then I didn't know that it was a breathing exercise. I later knew it was the breathing exercise after participating in these sessions. Then the other thing, as a Muslim, that I've been using to help myself get enough sleep whenever I'm undergoing a stressful situation is what we call the night prayers. We call it tahajjud. So at times, the situation is worse to an extent that I don't sleep completely. So whenever that happens, I just wake up, pray, is if it's from around 12 to 1 or 2, then afterwards I get a good sleep and I feel more relaxed. So one can also incorporate prayers as one of the way of dealing with the deep pain. Then mine is a question. You've said that we have different meditation techniques. So I'm kindly requesting that you share one of them so that we can learn from it. Thank you.
Thank you so
Hi,
much, Zeke.
Biasha, for that one. Sorry, Alia. I have shared some resources on the platform. Kindly, I'm sharing again. There's a number of resources and links that Alia was very kind enough to share with us. So you may follow these ones and they may help. If Alia has more resources, then I'm sure she's going to be kind enough to share.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, Zito, for sharing what worked for you. I think that's one of the most powerful things because I can sit here and speak and say, okay, use this resource, that one, that one. But to hear it from someone and say, I did this, I journaled, it worked for me, that's powerful. And absolutely, when you connected to spirituality, it's one of the most healing things because it reminds you of something greater than yourself. You are surrendering to a power greater than yourself over something you cannot manage, and that pain can be unmanageable. You can't do it on your own. So your higher power must have taken care of you, which is such a beautiful thing. And I'm very happy to hear that. And yes, just to follow up on what Mo said, there are some resources on the chat. So I've put two. One is on YouTube. It's the Good Full Meditation. They have a playlist of, I think, 10 meditations, and they're so happy. They're like a little friend that's there with you. And I've put another one called Honoring Heartbreak. It's specific to heartbreak on an app called Insight Timer. So you can get free meditations on Insight Timer. You can learn to do unguided meditation, intensive unguided, through the Art of Living, which I put their contacts in the chat, or rather Mo has put the contacts. And lastly, there's one more, although this is a paid resource, an app called Headspace. And I think you can get like a 14-day free trial, and you can also see their content on YouTube. It's amazing. It's a wonderful way to just clear your head and get in touch with your authentic self. So I hope that helps for you. What I am picking up on from relationships breakups is that for those who have children, children shouldn't hold on to it. Just think of yourself, self-care, loving yourself, and move on. I think loving yourself and self-care is such an important part of the process, but some people may find that they don't know how to do it. They're not able to just say, okay, yeah, it didn't work out, and move on. For some people, it's a devastating journey, and they spend months, maybe even years, going round and round in circles. And again, that's why these resources are so important. These conversations are so important. And having somebody to walk the journey with you, like a therapist or a mentor, that is absolutely essential for the journey. I see Riziki has her hand up.
Yes, Riziki, that may be the last one because we only have 2 minutes to the top of the hour. Mama Riziki?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Muhammad. I wanted to comment on the last call chat I wrote, loving yourself and self-care. We women, most of us, we have been just holding that, having children, not finding peace for ourselves when we break up from the relationship, which maybe is very toxic to us. So it's important for us to even teach other women that if that is done, it's done, and then we have to move on and just not holding, because I have just found that men are not holding in terms of maybe saying, okay, this is these are my kids and this is my husband, so I have to be here for no. But for men, they just walk away. But for us, we are getting back to that same relationship which is toxic because we are just holding the that is what I wanted to say.
Thank you so much for that comment, Riziki. It's, yes, there can sometimes be a gender imbalance, but again, it's nuanced. It's for everybody. Everybody has their own experience. Everybody has their own journey. How one person A reacts might be different to person B, even if they're both of the same gender, demographic. I mean, I can see like there's such an important discussion, and I hope, and I think maybe we can have like another session about this more. What do you think?
That's what I wanted to suggest actually, that it may mean that we revisit this, maybe a little bit tweaked, but related to this next week. So we'll talk behind the scenes and then see what's best for all these reactions and responses. Otherwise, thank you very much. I will allow you maybe your closing remarks earlier, and then we close.
Wow, my gosh, I wish we could stay and talk for hours about this, but even I have to go in a few minutes. But thank you so much, Mo, for inviting me and giving me this platform. And like I said in the beginning of this is something that I feel like we need to talk about more. And sometimes it may feel like we talk about it, but not always with this level of seriousness, to acknowledge that what is triggered from it, the disorders that are triggered from it, the low self worth, the insomnia, the grief that is being created, the fact that you want to end your own life and you can't see your life without somebody else. It happens all the time, but it's not often talked about because we all go through breakups. So what's the big deal? But it is a very powerful process, and I definitely encourage you to use these resources. Again, most of them are free. And once again, if you do feel like you need a mentor to walk the journey with you, I'm 100% available. I'm here for you. And to anyone struggling, or anyone who has a loved one who is struggling, please know that it gets better. Trust the process, trust yourself, or trust the person who's hurting, and allow yourself to surprise yourself with all the wonderful things that are ahead of you. Like, so much good can come out of this. That one I can almost promise you. And yeah, I think those are my closing remarks. I'll put my email in the chat once more for anyone who would like to reach out to me.
Thank you very much, Alia. You've been very kind and exceptional. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we had for tonight. I know we could go on and on, but our promise is 1 hour. So, thank you very much. We love you. That's why we are holding these platforms. And God bless you. Good night. See you next week.
Thank you, everyone. Have a lovely evening.
Bye.